Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. I'm your host, RM, and of course, today we have with us Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you?
I'm great, beyond great. In fact, I finally got a new car, which has been a saga and a half, but I got it and I've driven it and I love it. Um, yeah, I'm really happy. So all's well that ends well.
That is
Uh,
wonderful news, Russ. I'm sure you must be so relieved to have your wheels back.
I am. It's been a difficult time. I've been sort of like sharing with my ex, and that's not, it's not ideal for Sal. It's not ideal for me. And she was like, fucking hell, man, when you get in a car. But this other one that I was going to buy turned into a complete nightmare. It was going to be grands more expensive than I could afford. And it just went on. And in the end, I just said, look, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And then I just landed up with another one. And it's the color I want. And everything's good. So, yeah, I've got to get some paintwork done on it. But aside from that, I'm very happy. Yes.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I know that you've had a kind of a long search for a vehicle, and getting a car these days is very different from even a year ago. A lot has changed in the market. A lot has changed in availability, and it just is very different experience. So I'm glad you were able to navigate all this. And I do want to say hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Hi, Tom. How are you this morning? Hope you are well, Tom. And good morning to Retro Nerd Girl.
Hey, Retro.
How are you, Retro Nerd Girl? Hope you are well. So good to see you here. Thalia is here. Hi, Thalia.
Hello.
She says, hello and happy Sunday to all. Absolutely, guys. And we have Retro Nerd Girl's YouTube link here in the chat. So make sure you check out her channel, of course, and Darth Plato. Hey, Darth Plato, how are you this morning?
Yeah, thanks for your email, Darth Plato. Sorry, I'm trying to sort something out here down below. There we go. Yeah, thanks for your email, mate. I appreciate it. Yeah, Darth Plato and I had a bit of an offline chat about Cleopatra.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just a quick back and forth, but yeah.
Excellent. I like to hear that. Darth Plato, we're glad you're here. And hello to Renz Tolentino. How are you, Renz? Guys, do check out Renz's YouTube, Instagram. Actually, Renz is a very talented artist who we support here on the channel,
It
and
is.
so glad to see you, Renz. Guys, this is Russ's link to his webpage, russellwhitfield.com. So do check out russwhitfield.com on his webpage, and you can find out more about his books, the Gladiatrix series as well. Definitely do check it out. And hello, Joe Tyson, this morning.
Big Joe. Hey, man, how's it going? Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, hope you are well, Joe. We also have Stubble McShave. Hi, Stubble.
Hey, Stubble.
Stubble, you and I are going to be doing our Wheel of Time for, season one recap very soon, along with the upcoming Wheel of Time season two. That's coming up. I can't wait to see that, Stubble. Um, I think that's everybody this morning. Gosh, I hope everybody is well. I am feeling a lot better than I have over the past few weeks. So that there is that. Russ, yeah, what an interesting week for entertainment, Russ, because I've been talking about the Super Mario's movie to a point of ad nauseum, and only for to find out that it's the number one grossing movie, at least in the U.S., and it has made over $1 billion worldwide. Russ, did you ever think that the Super Mario movie would make this much money in such a short period of time, just a few weeks?
Yeah, I kind of did because it's a faithful, as far as I understand, pretty much faithful sort of adaptation of the guy. I'm not a gamer, so I can't really speak with any uh, authority on playing Mario. But from what I've heard from streamers, people are just saying, well, it's a really inoffensive movie. It doesn't have any particular message. It's not browbeating you with any politics or anything like that. It's just Mario and Luigi and Bowser, and they're all running around doing what they would do in the games. And apparently, it's quite layered in that if you know the universe and you know the games, it's literally a carpet full of Easter eggs. I couldn't tell you. So I don't know. Like it's just an amazing strategy that they've come out with. I can't. I can't actually quite credit the genius behind this idea of making an entertaining movie and not telling your entire, the vast swathe of your demographic that they're all terrible people and they shouldn't watch your film. I don't know how they came up with this. I don't know who thought of it, but it's clearly the way to go. It's just obviously this is a brand new thing that they've come up with. No, I'm being facetious, but yeah, it seems to have ticked all the boxes. People seem to be very, very, very happy with it, and yeah, why not? Why not? Indeed, if you like it, enjoy it.
Well, yeah, that is true, and, as I was saying before, it's no secret that, Super Mario is one of the most popular games in the world, um, but it's a
But
game
is it
that
as popular as Rome Total War? That's all I need to know. Because that's the only game I've got, right?
um, yeah, obviously, and hello to Random Rick Reviews, RRR.
Hey, Rick.
Masses are tired of woke culture. Yes, Random Rick. That might have something to do with it, but it's a game that's over 40, maybe 40 years old. Um, 35, 40 years old. The game has been around forever. It was a pixelated game. You remember those pixelated games, Russ?
Yeah, but sure, it
Almost.
wasn't in it was in the arcades first, like Donkey Kong, and that's got to be 50 years old. I mean, I remember, well, maybe not 50, maybe 45. I remember it when I was little in the arcade, jumping over the barrels and climbing up him and Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Defender. I used to like Defender because yeah, that was good. But all those games, yeah, but that was certainly like 45 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago, Russ. It's a game that has a lot of history, and the game has had different incarnations of itself, meaning that it went from a very 2D looking game to what we know, sort of like the more modern Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart, that has become kind of like this fun racing game that everybody and their mother has been playing. Anyone can play that game. So it
Mm.
really does, come across. I do want to say good morning to Lugnuts. Six, hi, Lugnuts.
Hey,
How are
man.
you? Lugnut says, good morning to a very beautiful celestial dream diamond named Arm and the Russinator and Sir Tom. Well, good morning to you, Lugnut 6. I'm going to have to steal that very beautiful celestial dream diamond. I really love that, the way you speak, Lugnuts. You're just so wonderful. Thank you. So appreciate it. Mighty Orbots is here.
Oh, hey, man.
Mighty Orbits would say, I was just thinking that Donkey Kong was in the arcade first. Great game. Yeah, Donkey Kong, Russ. Donkey Kong is in the movie, Russ. The don
Yep.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is honestly, um, and I know I saw the film when I was staying with you in London, Russ. I have to say that that film was incredible to see what they were able to do with the film and to have that story behind it. It's making me want to play the game. I'm going to get the game and play it. I wasn't going to do this before, but after seeing the film, Russ, I'm encouraged to do this. And I know this is not the first time that I'm saying this, but I really haven't ever had a film have that kind of effect over me, maybe making me want to go out and buy merchandise, making me
Hmm.
want to go out and buy a video game. That is a success for any franchise. It really is unbelievable. We also have Nathan Trujillo. Hi,
Hey, Nathan.
Nathan. Says hi, everyone in the Positive Family fam. Hey, and Russ, what's up? Well, what's up with you, Nathan? Hope you are well out there, guys. But yeah, I just can't get over that it's the number one film, at least in the United States. I don't know how it ranks in the UK, Russ, but $1 billion internationally is certainly not anything to bat an eye at, to be honest with you. And Jamin D is here. Hey, Jamin D,
Hey,
how are
man.
you? And we got Mario Lopez. Hi,
Hey, Mario.
Mario. Mario says, hi there, Artem and Russ. It's great to see all of you guys here today. Certainly excited about a lot of things. CinemaCon was this past week, Russ. And of course, something that's still going right now is SnyderCon.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah. But just to say, on I was gonna say Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers. I've been saying that and it's not like I'm the great sage of wisdom. Lots of people say it. This because you're a fan, you're gonna go out and you're gonna buy the merchandise. because they've not alienated their fan base and they've not alienated newbies either. I'm sure I could sit and watch it and understand what was going on. Maybe I wouldn't appreciate it as much as I keep saying Donkey Kong, a Donkey Kong fan who gets all the Easter eggs, but I could watch it, right? You're a
Yes.
fan of the franchise. You've got
Yeah.
the games or had the games. You're going to go out, rush out, and buy the DVD. I'm sure when it comes out, and the game, and the merchandise, and the toy. And that's where you make your residuals, right? So hopefully, the right messages will be taken from this, because films that seemingly are adopting this approach, well, guess what? They're all stunningly successful, and films that aren't adopting this approach are going by the wayside. Well, perhaps not going by the wayside, but certainly are not as successful. And I was talking to someone, and I forget who it was now, and it will come to me about the Marvel um, stuff. And I said, well, like Love and Thunder and the other one, Quantum Mania, were flops. And this person was, let's just say, from the opposite side of the fence to what I am. And they were saying that these were not flops, and they'd actually, made a bit of money, and the other one at least broke even. And I said, well, making, at least making its budget back and a little more and breaking it even are not the hallmarks of success for a Marvel movie. I mean, that's a complete those are utter failures. Like, there is no other way of looking at it. If you're breaking even with Ant-Man and or making a little bit of money with Ant-Man and breaking even with Thor, you've got a problem. And as often been said, these films are made 2 3 years in advance, so they're always kind of like behind the curve. So I don't know, hopefully we'll get more films like Super Mario Brothers, and I mean in terms of their not message, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, Darth Plato says he's glad that the number one film is a non-woke piece. Um, Renz Tolentino says that the Peaches song got stuck in my head for days. And Renz, I have to be honest with you, of course, the Peaches song is sung by Jack Black, an incredibly talented entertainer who I had
Mm,
mentioned we saw in The Mandalorian season 3, but they didn't use him or Lizzo to their abilities. It would have been great to have seen them do a duet together, knowing what a great singer she is and knowing what a great singer he is. They could have sang the Mandalorian theme or something, done something that would have been epic on Star Wars. But we got to see him epic in this film, and that Peaches song, I fell in love with Bowser. I can't believe he's the bad guy, Russ. I
mhm.
fell in love with the bad guy because he sings, he serenades. He has this beautiful serenade in the beginning of the movie, and it catches you off guard because I remember watching it, and the film starts off, and I'm like, "Is this the right film? Why is he singing?" And I realized that it was Bowser singing to Princess Peach about how much he loves her. It's a love song, Russ. He catches you in the beginning of the movie with a love song, and it is just absolutely amazing to hear Jack Black, really at his peak at things that he can do like that where he shines. It was just remarkable. Even Renz couldn't get the song out of his head. Nathan says Super Mario Brothers is so much fun. It deserves the success it's having. Yeah. And Jamin D says, I'm going to buy myself the VHS for Mario. Yes, sir. Forget the DVD.
Mm.
Lugnut says, Spartan, feel free to use any of my poetic compliments to you. It makes my heart dance. And the same for me, lug nuts. Thank you so much. Chronicles is here. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, good afternoon to you, Chronicles. Um, and Wux Wuther says the Peaches song is sung by the presidents of the United States of America. Well,
Talking of the presidents, have you seen this the one channel with the presidents, Biden, Trump, and Obama, who are apparently mates that meet up and play Minecraft, and they've started doing tier lists, and they were doing, like, I don't know what waifu is, but basically they had all these like girls from Star Wars, and they were doing a tier list of Star Wars waifu. Fucking hell, it was so funny, and it's all AI, and of course they play into the jokes about each individual president. So, like, Joe's always getting it from in Sleepy Joe, and Donald Trump's really incendiary, and Obama's like, Obama's like the nerd, like the dungeon master. It's really good, and I recommend if anyone sees it, do check it out because it makes me laugh. Interesting. You mentioned Mando. I don't want to, I don't want to touch on Mando too much because the series is over and all that sort of thing. Um, but I was listening to somebody talking about this, and I remember you saying to me, or that you know, Favreau's writing seems to have gone down a Kazi of late, and it seems to be all over the place. But yeah, Favreau is like a really talented man. I mean, this is like the architect behind Phase One, and this is the architect behind the Mandalorian when it was good. And how could it be? And I forget who said this. It's not an original thought, but I thought this person's absolutely fucking nailed it. I imagine he's just stopped caring. That's what it seems to be. Now imagine, I don't know, you've done journalism work, and I'm thinking like as a writer, okay,
Yes.
you've pitched this whole thing, and you've now got this series which is a massive success that nobody really thought was going to be that much of a success because it was only halfway decent, and you've got this character, you handpick the actress to play her, Cara Dune, uh, uh, Gina
Nick
Carano.
Krono.
Everybody loves her. That's the way. And you then come out at a Star Wars celebration or whatever it was and say, right, she's a spin-off character, and we are building a whole load of spin-off shows around her. And then Disney, your bosses come along and go, no, we don't like her. She's fired. Think of a new idea. And
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
messed up.
this is phase one, right? I've got more to say on this. You're like, fuck, man. What am I going to do? Well, that means that all my plans are now dust for my continued year. Like, this is how, but you wear it and you get on with it and you think, you know what? I've had a brilliant idea. This is how this is going to roll now. What we're going to do is we're going to have little Yoda's burgeoning force powers getting more and more. And you know who we're going to bring in at the end of fucking season two? I know what we're going to do. And we're going to take little Yoda off the table and we're going to send him away with Luke Skywalker. The fans will go nuts for Luke Skywalker, and we can get Grogu out of the picture, and we can go back to what Mando was kind of supposed to be, this bounty hunter, and and then we can bring Grogu back in at a later date. And you with Dave Filoni goes, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And your bosses at Disney turn around and go, that whole thing about Yoda going off to be no, fuck that. We need to sell more merchandise. He's got to be back in the show. And in fact, we now want actually this character, the Mandalorian. How can we put it, John? I think he's basically got too many testicles. We don't want this show to be about him anymore. We actually want it to be about this side character, and we want the little kid in it because that's what people want to buy. And yeah, we need to come up with something else. And you're John Favreau, and you're thinking, how many bites of this shit sandwich am I going to actually take? Like, I'm a good writer. I had this all planned out. You disrupted my plan once. I adjusted. And everybody had a meltdown about how awesome the end of season two was. And now you're telling me I've got to bring the little guy back, and everything's different, and Mando's not the hero anymore, and it's all about Bo-Katan now. And I imagine his care factor, even if he's trying to be professional at this point, it must be out the window. And especially with like Dave Filoni going off and doing his own thing, I rather think that Favreau's tenure at Star Wars may well be coming to an end. That was what I wanted to say about that anyway.
Yeah, it is something to think about because there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. In fact, everything is absolutely true. It's called derailing someone.
Yes.
Constantly getting derailed. He's doing a job. It's literally what he was asked to do. They're good ideas, and then it gets derailed, and it's constant. And it's very odd that this particular show has been derailed so often. I think that it does give you an implication of something because the show was derailed. One of the other things that derailed it was the fact that it got inserted into the book of Boba Fett. And so we all know, all of us know that those episodes were never intended to be in the book of Boba Fett. And all of a sudden they appear there. which was another derailment to me, because we all know that that was something that they did at a last minute, hoping to, build up, excitement for the franchise. And it didn't really build up as much excitement, I think. It brought attention, but sometimes attention isn't enough. Just
Well, I
because
don't. Sorry.
yeah, just because you are bringing people to the screen doesn't mean that they're going to be excited about what they're seeing. And so that kind of attraction to, well, look, he's back, and it feels, somewhat misplaced, or this is the decision they made. It was a desperate act to revive the Book of Boba Fett. It had nothing to do with Grogu or the Mandalorian. They could care less about the Mandalorian in that season. The show was supposed to be about Boba Fett, so we could see it was inserted. It was not smooth. It was never the original intention, and they got away with it. But it was thrown together, and sometimes when you do things like this, that's the kind of outcome you get. Even they couldn't necessarily change how people felt about the Book of Boba Fett. So I think that it across the board was not only used to propel the Mandalorian and to keep, that intention, maybe not Favreau's intention, but to keep it going in a certain direction, but also wherever it could be inserted and used, they probably said, "Hey, he's a Mandalorian too. Let's just throw him in there,
Mm.
even though he shouldn't be there." So I think any place where the Mandalorian or Grogu can be inserted and they can make a connection, we'll see them.
Well, I
Because
just think one of the things that I heard, again, it was on YouTube, and I wish I could credit this, but I was listening in the car, and the thing just moved on to a new video, and I was driving, so I wasn't about to start pissing around with the phone. But the one guy was saying, I don't know, these are rumors, so I don't know if they're true or not. But I think if we just cast our mind back to that Luke Skywalker thing and the announcement of Ahsoka and all that kind of stuff. Um, Everyone was getting really excited back in the day, saying that, like, well, with Luke back and Ahsoka back, maybe they're going to pull the whole world between worlds thing and just like move the sequels to one side, and we're going to continue with the Star Wars EU, and we're going to, a bit like Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap, they're going to set right what once went wrong, and all that. And that was the pervasive talk at that time, like a couple of years ago,
it
right?
was
Everyone,
speculative talk, right?
yeah, but lots of people were hoping, yeah, and speculating and thinking, well, this is the way it's going to go. And this YouTuber was postulating that the heads up at Lucasfilm, the great Satan that is Kathleen Kennedy to certain people, apparently was just bent out of shape about this because, imagine someone in that position of power who's strident, and with her history, and she's strident, and she's made all of these decisions uh, to do with the direction of that particular franchise and that particular universe, and it's failing hard. And then this Favreau character comes along with something genius that everybody universally loves. Then he does something even after his original plan has been wrecked because you decided you were going to fire the most popular character or second most popular character in the show, and the one that he had planned his entire universe around. You're going to fire that person and never sure their name be mentioned again. So he then, because he's a talented guy, spins it round and comes off with this killer ending that everybody loved, sent grown men into floods of tears as they relived their childhood over it. And then your social media people are telling you, well, you know what, Kathleen, everyone's kind of hoping that this is going to lead to a pathway where the sequels aren't, that sort of whole vision you had of the Force is female, and and sideline it. Nobody seems to want that. Perhaps maybe we should get. And it's almost like she doesn't like what she's heard, so she's doubled down. Now, whether that's true or not, I couldn't tell you, but it does seem to make sense because I remember saying to you last week, why do these people, in the face of all numbers, logic, social media, whatever it happens to be. Now, I know that they measure social media noise as a measure of success. So it doesn't matter if 50 billion people are all tweeting, I hate this show. That's still measured by Para Analytics, which is who they all go to, as success. So it's not even engagement. It's more like an amorphous blob. As long as it's no publicity is bad publicity. I imagine. But it's flying in the face of what everybody wants, but they just keep doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. It's all, as I said last week, I just feel like they're trying to sort of wear us down, and who it's like a war of attrition, and I think the studios are losing the war of attrition. That's what it seems like. Viewership is declining. The unsinkable ship of Marvel is beginning to sink, and nobody cares about Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that, and I do want to read some of these comments before
Hmm.
I comment on that. Um, uh, Chronicle says, I'm assuming he means Favreau needs a long
Favreau, yeah.
break. And Wex Luther says Disney is purposely trying to sink the ship. How can everything you do suck? Chronicle says, like JJ, started out wonderful with Fringe, and then he and his and they're wanted for every project, burnt out a long time, resorts to cheap cliches. Hello, Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington.
All right, Gal.
Darth Plato says Russ is right. I've heard Favreau had to rewrite season 3 multiple times. We also have Chronicles who says lots of gimmicks. We have Stubble who says it was strange. The original Mandalorian Boba Fett was not a part in retaking Mandalore. It
Mm.
is weird. Chronicles says they learned the format from J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. We got Brother Cousins reviews. Hi, Brother Cousins. Guys, you got to check out Brother Cousins reviews. He is fantastic with his reviews of 1/6 scale figures and so much more. Thank you for stopping by, Brother Cousins. Good to see you. Chronicles also says that's why we have to sit through endless sequels or rehashes. And also, my girl Luminara843, the figure flex queen is here. Hello, Luminara843. So good to see you this morning. And Mario says he believes it's all KK's fault. Now, I do want to respond to this. I think it's kind of interesting because, Russ, you and I have talked about this a lot. And of course, a lot of us here on the chat have talked about this here on the show. And beyond, even in other chat rooms or whatever. And I think that something that a lot of people may not be paying attention to or acknowledging is that as far as they're concerned, this is a success for them because they don't care about how much money this is making. Their goal is from an artistic point of view, they want to go ahead and make whatever they want to. And so for them, it's a success. And so they're looking at it and they're very happy with how things are going. Now, it is true that, I think a lot of people would say there have been huge missteps, medium missteps, small missteps, things that were pushed through that kind of were mediocre, that can't necessarily be lauded. For example, one of my missteps that I always talk about is the fact that they had Leia hiding under somebody's trench coat. I felt like that was, kind of a huge misstep production wise. That would have never gone through any other show. Remember, they purposely didn't de-age Luke, not Luke,
Anakin.
Anakin, and it didn't make any sense. And someone did it, and then they hired the guy. Like it did. There were certain things that they did that didn't flow properly in the story, which is an indication to us that not everything that's important in the story is important to them. They just want to get their story told. And as I said before, they could have made multiple stories by now. They're kind of, jumping from place to place. And it's not as organized as you would expect a well-made show to be. So you get dabble here, dabble there. But overall, the feeling of the show is very incongruous. So as far as I'm concerned, this is what they wanted to project, and they're happy with it. This is what they wanted to do, and as far as I think management is concerned, that's what they want to do, and it gets put out and it gets created. That's what they want to now. In regards to the world beyond worlds, I always thought that that was just a speculation, Russ. I've heard a number of different theories about what would happen, but the number one theory that I've always heard is that Rey was going to be coming back and that she was now going to be the cornerstone of the franchise. So since they made 3 films about her, there was no reason to believe that they were going to step away from the character. They went ahead and made a Christmas special where she was the feature. And from what they've been saying, they always had every intentions of keeping the character. So I wasn't quite sure if people had heard something different. You know, of course, we get announcements and we don't get shows, but just going by what we've been seeing and what their intention is, I couldn't really imagine anything different at this point. But as I said to a lot of people, if seeing this is kind of like upsetting and annoying to you, don't let it get to you. We spent 6 or 7 years on those sequels, and for some of us, some people loved it, some people didn't care for it. If it's not anything you care for, don't even spend another minute looking at it, because they'll most likely be very much like what they gave us before that. So just keep that in mind. Just be aware that it may not be going forward anything that is going to really stir your heart. And unfortunately, that's the situation the way it is, but they're very happy. Management there is very happy with how things have turned out. I just came from a Star Wars celebration where you could see how excited they were with how things are. So I just, almost want to say in a sense that I don't want everyone to get too focused on a lot of this, because this is what their management team wants, and I don't think there's anything anyone could say that could convince them to go in another
Yeah,
direction.
sure, but it's not really what the vast majority of their customers want. I would argue that going to a Star Wars celebration and you've paid money to go and watch a sit in that room where they have all of the people coming out and talking about, of course they're going to fucking cheer everything. Hey, well, they're not going to sit there booing Daisy Ridley, are they? But the audience is not excited for this. You can tell. You've seen the reaction over social media. Like literally nobody cares. And the one thing I saw and I thought, oh god, that would have been interesting, was what's the guy that wrote Prometheus? Lindelof. And he was hired to do this before they fired him. You know why they fired him? Because he had a fucking brilliant idea. He had a brilliant idea. Helen Mirren was going to be Ray, and it was going to be set years and years and years and years and years in the future. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. What's
Yeah,
happened?
because she would be a Jedi master already, and she would have already had
Okay,
those, which is
as
what I
much as
thought Rey should have been in the first place. But
right, so that's interesting. It was a brilliant idea. It may well have got people thinking, okay, all right, this is divorced enough from what we've seen before. Those steaming piles of crap will still exist, with two of them. Because don't forget, we were all happy clappy when the Force Awakens came out. We all knew that it was a rip off of A New Hope. We knew that, but we're thinking, no, this is okay. And we know Harrison Ford wanted to kill that character for years. He's wanted. Let's see where we go. And then we got the rest of the disaster after that. So they have this one now, and again, they have a brilliant idea. I know what we can do. I know how we can get the fan. I reckon we'll get the fans back. I was like, no, we don't want that. We want exactly what we gave them before. What are you doing? What are you doing? And it's, yes, I absolutely concur that they are very very happy with what they're doing, but their audience is not. And I think, as I talk about it, I think that the thing about Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, uh, to the same extent, in fact, that these sort of legacy franchises, if you like, they're so well loved and they've been part of our culture for, in the case of Star Wars, for some 50 years now. And now the people that they've got steering that particular ship don't know about it, don't care about it, don't love it. It's just it's just a job to some of them, apart from Filoni and Favreau, let us say, and a vehicle for getting out whatever asinine political message they want to get out on a particular given day. I was reminded, I saw an interview with Leslie Headland, the person that's doing the Acolyte show,
yes.
and she was being interviewed by Collider, and she's giving it large, man. She go, well, these aren't going to be the Jedi that you think of. I mean, when everybody thinks of the Jedi, they're so revered, and everybody wants them to be so perfect all the time. But you know what? In my show, they're going to be shown as not particular perfect, and they do make mistakes, and that's never been tackled in Star Wars before. And I'm watching it going, you didn't watch the fucking prequels then, did you? Because that's exactly what that was about, and how fallible and yeah. But Rita, it was like, you're the showrunner. You've been gifted this amazing, like the best job in the world ever. You get to write a Star Wars show, and you haven't watched Star Wars. Then she's on stage pretending to cry, going, "Star Wars saved my life," and 30 seconds later, she's laughing her head off. I don't know, but that statement, "You've never seen a Jedi like this before," dude. We literally have. We literally saw this like 30 years ago. Like we saw the whole fall of the Jedi. I couldn't. I. I couldn't credit it. I just couldn't. I couldn't believe it that she was going to come out there and say that. Like, Lovey, do your research. Like watch the films. At least watch them once, so you kind of know. It was mind
Yeah,
was blown.
but now you know what to expect because this is the pathway that they're going on. So there shouldn't really be too many surprises with the direction they're going. That's what I'm saying.
Well, no,
Because they
I agree
yeah,
completely. But to employ someone to do a job and for them to come out publicly and say you've never seen this before and we'll be looking at this, and I'm a moderate Star Wars fan. I'm not fanatical, and I'm sitting there going, What? But wait, Anakin and Mace and he has to be destroyed. He's too powerful to stay alive. Come on, what are you saying?" Yeah, I was. Yes, I was stunned by that. But these are the people now that you've got making the show, and I'm sure they all think the Acolyte is brilliant and the best
they do.
and the
And
best show of all time.
hello, Cavantino Caverin says, good morning, day, everyone. Well, good morning to you. Yeah, and Wex, you make a good point, Rex. They are unfortunately letting thousands of people to go. But management is making millions of dollars off of this, Wex. And that is something that makes them very, very happy indeed, Wex. Because they don't see these employees, I think, as something that they can't replace very easily. Even Victoria Alonso managed to get Bank back from them when they got rid of her. She got a settlement out of getting fired. Can you imagine that? Any other person getting fired wouldn't get money, but she got a settlement. These managers know what they're doing financially. They know what they're doing artistically with the IP because that's what they want to do, and they're the ones who are in control of all this. So unfortunately, that's where it's going to go. Um, Nathan says Star Wars will have to face the same situation the Transformers movies.
It's a
Interesting.
brilliant analogy.
Interesting. Billion-dollar films that barely making any money whatsoever. Force Lucasfilm to change direction big time. Yeah, yeah, probably.
But this is it,
Um,
isn't it, Nathan and our will it? Because as you are rightly saying, they don't seem to care. They've got funding from BlackRock and whoever else that they're getting their money from. They don't seem to care that these films are critical. No, not Access Media love them, obviously, but amongst their fan base, that they're financially and critically amongst the fans absolutely hated, and derided, and scorned and mocked. They don't seem to care. So, will it force them to change, or will they just keep on? And when I was saying before about these beloved franchise, they just seem to be sort of grinding it into the ground, almost to the point where, can you imagine a world now that we have now where 3 Star Wars films have been announced and there's literally no sense of excitement amongst the vast majority of Star Wars fans? Like, we should be sitting here ravening over every single little sentence and inflection that they use, and it's like, oh yeah, well, they're bringing out a new film about Ray, and Filoni's finishing off the Boba Fett thing, and oh yeah, there's one about the beginning of the Force, because we already, like everyone is saying, well, we all know how that's going to go, don't we?
well,
And we could be wrong, and we hope we're wrong, but yeah.
I think it's interesting because, and of course, this is not a new report or anything, but when episodes 1 and 2 came out, I didn't care for those films either. It wasn't until episode 3 that I really, kind of fell back into falling in love with Star Wars again. So I feel like I've gone through this once before, and then 20 years later, going through it again. Star Wars has kind of had a bumpy road when it comes to movies. So there is that for me anyway, in regards to my taste. I still don't like episodes 1 and 2 as much as I like episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So
Episode 3 is brilliant. It really is. But everybody says it. We're all looking back on. They were not well received, and there were all sorts of. Poor old George Lucas got it right in the neck, didn't he? You ruined my childhood and all that stuff. And I've always said he should have made those films for 20 and 30 somethings, made them all PG-13, and then gone 18 certificate with the last one and really gone for it. That was always my fear. Even at the time when they were announced, I thought, oh, but they were okay. But I think they have had the benefit of hindsight. And what is it? Rob says, they're really bad movies, but they're really good Star Wars. They're great ideas, poorly executed, and all that kind of thing. And they fit by and large into the larger universe. Whereas I don't think the sequels do. I just think the sequels are, look, it's been done to death. Everybody knows there was no plan. Everybody knows they didn't have a clue what they were doing, and everybody knows that those. And sadly for Lucasfilm, none of those characters had any cultural impact. We only know who Ray is because we're complete nerds. But you know, Finn and Poe Dameron and all the rest of them, those characters on Obi-Wan's and Han Solo's and Princess Leia's and fucking Chewbacca, who doesn't have any dialogue, and R2D2 has more of a cultural impact than Ray and Poe Dameron, and R2D2 is a garbage can that bleeps. I mean, come on. This is where we're at.
Well, Chronicle says maybe they need to just start again. The best Star Wars characters now are from the series Andor. That's a platform you can use to create the universe. And as I said to you, Russ, when I came for Star Wars Celebration, Andor is my favorite Star Wars series right now. And that's why I went to Star Wars Celebration. And that's why I had to see Andy Serkis, and get the poster and have people sign the poster from Andor was the thing that I was most passionate about. And, because of that, I enjoyed it because that was my passion. Still is. I'm still waiting for Andor. I'm still inspired by Andor. And it shows that there can be sort of these one-offs. Sometimes they'll get it right. For me anyway. But yeah, some of these other things that they're doing isn't exactly what people love. Mario says, how could she say that for her there was not a favorite Star Wars movie? Perhaps she never saw even one of the movies. Yeah, this is a good point about having a favorite Star Wars movie. I would have to say right now my favorite one would be Rogue One. What about you, Russ?
Favorite Star Wars movie? That's a good question. It's going to be a toss-up between Star Wars and Empire.
Ah,
Yeah, I really like that. I think Empire Strikes Back is really good. You got prime Billy D, prime Princess Leia, prime Luke. I mean, it was all there, and the Emperor was not really in that one, but the fact that they mentioned this guy in the first one and finally got to see him, yeah, I don't know. The Star Wars was so good, but yeah, Rogue One's definitely up there. It
I
got
think
right. It got it right.
the Emperor's influence was heavy in The Empire Strikes Back
Mm.
because, for all practical purposes, the Emperor is the main symbol of the Empire and the driving force behind what Anakin had become. Anakin would not have become that, I don't think, if the Emperor hadn't influenced him so much. So, I think that's pretty important. So, his presence, and he's always looming, watching what would happen. He's angry. He was angry with Vader for not converting Luke.
Uh,
Like, so, and I think that was apparent. And that whole thing where he's telling, where Vader's like, well, I'm your dad, I think he knew that Luke was going to be repulsed by this, and he hoped that Luke would push back and not give in. So, I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but sometimes when you're a parent, you don't necessarily want your children to make the same mistakes you do. Is that not correct?
Jesus Christ. I'm so pleased and proud that my child is nothing like I was at that age. Nothing
Well,
like me. And it's the best thing ever.
so you're a parent and you understand what I'm talking about.
Totally.
They really don't want to see their kids go through stuff like that. Of course, there's no parent in the galaxy who would want their kid to end up the way Vader did.
Mm.
So, I think that he was actually very clever in the way he told his son this information, and at a point where he knew his son was incredibly vulnerable, and that the thought of the son, having any association with Darth Vader would absolutely repulse him. Maybe he knew he had to tell him, but he knew that it wasn't going to be, well, come, I'm your father. Let's go have a beer. It
You know
wasn't
what?
going to be that kind of a moment.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you have to wonder, and I guess it's probably in the novelization, but it's been a billion years since I've read that. What was Vader's intent? When he says we can overthrow the Emperor and rule the galaxy as father and son, right? Maybe that's what he wanted because he was consumed by the dark side. He wasn't a good man pretending to be a planet destroying shit. This was an evil dude who did evil things and probably and loved it. Yes, he was once a good man, but that was a long, long time ago when he had arms and legs and someone that he loved, and now he's just a burned out husk of and the dark side is what's keeping him going, right? So maybe that's what he was thinking, but it was only through Luke's perseverance and hope, dare I say, and believing that like a true Jedi would, like you can be redeemed. Um, which I guess is what they were going for at the end of Obi-Wan, right? But they, of
No,
course,
you're
didn't.
absolutely right, Russ, because remember that after Luke got over the shock of finding out what he found out and realizing that, like, even though the Jedis are not supposed to form relationships, they are a very tight bunch, aren't they? These Force
Mhm,
users, they're a very tight bunch. They don't have a lot of outside friends, do they? Like, they have very close connections, and
mhm.
those connections will keep secrets for one another. Um, what I find interesting is that after Luke got over the shock of what he heard from his father, then you start to hear him say things like, "I know there's good in him because I can feel it."
Yes.
I thought that was maybe the best thing about Empire, excuse me, about Return of the Jedi, was because he had to get over these emotions that he had, the repulsion of what he heard from his father, and realize, I need to grow up and stop being a dick. This is my dad.
Mm,
And he's in a position, a very difficult position. He's reaching out to me. And what decision am I going to make? I can see he's a good person. You can't say that that's a bad situation or film, at least in my opinion, when you realize what's at stake. It's his father's life. And, let's say whatever else is involved in it, even though he didn't live with his father and have that experience as having a father, but
mm,
it doesn't matter. We've seen movies, Russ, recently where children have had to make decisions about what they were going to do with their parents. Avatar Part 2,
mm.
the spider character has to make a split decision. He has seconds to save somebody who may or may not be his dad. And he didn't know the man. Russ, he does what he felt was right. He goes and saves him, doesn't know the man. And I thought to myself, this is what this is about is, when it comes down to it, at the moment when you have to make that decision, what is that decision going to be? That's why Return of the Jedi was, for me, such a great film. I know it's not ever going to be as good as Empire, but as a parent, that's the type of decision you hope your child makes. Whether it
Yeah, and
benefits you or not is irrelevant. That's the type of decision you're hoping your child is going to make.
and I also think it, in some ways, the way that particular story, was continued in that, here you have like one of the most evil characters uh in the galaxy, yet this young Jedi can sense the good in him, can sense that maybe that there's a way back, and he will put it all on the line. His life, he's risking his life here because also his very soul. Let's not forget when you're going to fucking face down Palpatine and Darth Vader, your ass is going to be going a little bit because you think if I get this wrong, I'm going to be loving it. I'm going to be literally ruling the galaxy as father and son here. But yet that sliver of good that he felt within Darth Vader, he somehow pushes through all of that. The same guy that tries to butcher his own nephew because he had a bad dream. And it's stuff like that that upsets people who have been invested in things for a number of years. Why
Yeah.
would why would Prime, and I'm saying say Prime Jedi Master Luke, why would he do that? Why would this man who put his soul on the line to save somebody. I've had a bad dream. Fuck you. It's asinine. Anyway, we've done it to
It
death. Do
is.
we want to catch up on these
Yes,
chats? Or
Bonzo Kilborn says, "Hello, positive fandom. Sorry I'm late. Obviously, I'll stay behind class for some discipline." Ooh, Bonzo, I kind of like that. Wex says, "Hey, Disney is in a lot of debt. Individuals might be making money, but shareholders know its value is going down." Gee, Wex Ruther, you're absolutely right about this. This is a very hard time to be a shareholder at Disney because they are losing confidence in what's going on. And it is interesting as a corporation, it's supposed to benefit the shareholders. Never, I think, do I think any of these investors feel comfortable with what's going on with the company,
did you hear him
especially.
getting roasted by the shareholders on the open call? Like loads of people sort of funny. Yeah, well, I want to ask about the state of like the stores and everything like that, and then they just get on and go, "Why are you doing this? You're ruining everything." It was really quite
And
funny.
this is
Like they were like deers in the headlights. They didn't know what to say. Oh no, well we agree in diversity, and people are no, no, no. With this, you're ruining everything. Stop it. And it's so funny that it wasn't just one guy, one random nutcase. It was like three or four, five, six people were all just phoning in and putting in questions.
mhm.
Saying, why are you doing this? But anyway,
I mean,
sorry.
no, it's true because as a shareholder, how do you even know how much your share is going to be worth tomorrow if this continues? Because I would have never guessed in a million years that Disney's shares would go down. That it should have gone the opposite. It or at least stayed at a reasonable value. I mean, they stopped paying dividends. That's like one of the perks of being a shareholder.
Mm,
That's usually a very bad sign as a shareholder. But the executives got paid. They got their bonuses. They got $23 million during excuse me, the pandemic. Meanwhile, shareholders were not getting their dividends. So that's something to think about, and very important, Wex, about how the company is even run financially, and it is kind of sad. Kevin Tino Cavarimiche says, borrowing the saying from The Mandalorian, "This is the way. This is the way." Che Stubble says, "I wonder if the next Star Wars movie will make a billion." Yeah, Stubble. Listen, unless they do a Super Mario film, I don't think it's going to do that.
it really
Um,
depends, doesn't it, on how much they run it into the ground with the acolyte, and how much they run it into the ground with whatever else they've got coming out in between now and then. That's what's 2 years away. There's a lot of TV shows, and we're all hoping Ahsoka is going to be brilliant, and
yes.
we will cut it slack because everybody loves Rosario, like everybody in the whole universe loves her, but everybody loves Ewan McGregor. And we okay, 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 and he was brilliant in that show, but the show was absolute garbage. Can you imagine um what damage they can do in between now and then? So I think you're right, and Stubble. It is a coin toss, because if they wreck it even more than they've wrecked it already, then the desire just isn't going to be there, and you're relying on fans now. It's not like there are millions of children, little 4 and 5 and 6-year-old Russes and Ritas running around going, "Oh my God, Daddy, take me to the new Star Wars. I want to go see the new Star." No, we're all now. I'm not going to say how old you are, but I'm well past my sell-by date. So those children don't exist. So what are they going to do? Where's their audience? Well, they're going out of their way to get the old soaks and all the rest of the people that have been into it their whole lives. They're going out of their way to alienate them.
Exactly, Russ. And this is something to think about. Tom says, "I'm a huge fan of Star Wars and Marvel, but haven't had any problems with it. But that is me. I'm excited for the Ray film." Yeah, I want to be honest with you, if they ever make this film, I don't want it to be bad. I want it to be good. I think if they could make a good Ray movie, but let's see what they
Oh
make.
my God. And as you were talking about it, and as Tom was typing it, do you know what? And this is like straight from my subconscious. What I was thinking as you were talking, is, I don't give a fuck if it's good or bad or not. And that's my straw poll of one right there. That was literally an unbidden, not for the show thought. I don't give a fuck about that. And I imagine that's how many people feel like, yeah, great. If it's good, I'll watch it. If it's shit, but I don't care. I'm not like, oh, they better not mess this Star Wars like I would be about Superman or whatever. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, and Darth Plato, you're right about the announcements being made and stuff have never happened. And this is happening more than ever before because we're getting so many darn announcements now. Like it's over the top how many announcements they're making of stuff that they want to make that we know most likely are not going to come to fruition. Nathan says, I'm imagining a world where these new Leaf films never been made. Yeah,
Mm,
Nathan, that seems to be the case. But they sure have the freedom to just announce. Um, AOTC is good except for all the character interaction. Okay, I know a lot of people like to tackle the clones. Um, I yeah, I still didn't care for the first two films, and the first film, the thing I think it was the first film that really didn't appeal to me was the pod racing. And I knew as soon as I saw the pod racing that I said, "Oh, this is a film for me." For me, I interpreted it as a film that was made for children because I thought children would love this pod race. Like any child seeing this will love this.
mm.
This will be a film that a child would love. And it happened. Like there were a lot of kids who liked the pod race. But for me watching it, I said, I cannot watch this. And I also didn't like although it is obviously part of the story, that he was being put in that position to race for his freedom. So I didn't care for that storyline. And I still don't care for that storyline. I thought that was terrible that this child had to do that. So that's how I feel about that one. But it's undeniable. There are millions of people who love that pod race. In fact, became Star Wars fans because of that pod race. And I get that. Like I don't begrudge them for that. I think it's great if you enjoyed it, but I just couldn't. I was sitting there and I couldn't enjoy the pod race. I still don't enjoy the pod race. Doesn't mean it's bad. I just didn't enjoy it. So, I mean, what did you think of it, Russ?
Um, I was okay with it. I thought that Jar Jar Binks was stupid, and I thought Anakin was annoying in the first movie, and the pod race seemed to me to be all about making a computer game. I remember thinking that at the time. I said, "Oh, this is like a computer game. I bet they'll bring a computer game out," and I believe that they did. But interestingly, I showed it to my daughter when she was fairly young, and she absolutely loved it. She thought Jar Jar was hilarious. She couldn't stop laughing at him. Thought that Anakin was cool. You know, she was only little at the time, but is Sam a lifelong Star Wars fan? No, she watched the movies, enjoyed them, and promptly forgot all about them because she's got other things to be brainwashed with by me, like DC Comics. But as a whole, it didn't have the impact on her as it had on us, and I think that's a pretty good yardstick. Like the kids have got so much stuff, whatever you're going to try and grab them with, it's got to be really good. Like the boys, she loves the boys. Thinks
Oh, I
it's
love the boy. Oh,
it's the
come
best thing
on.
ever.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. The Boys to me is sort of like what The Watchmen was for me when I first saw The Watchmen or heard about The Watchmen and then the making of The Watchmen. Yes, of course.
Segue. It's a good segue to what's coming next,
It is a
right?
good segue, but I think The Watchmen was sort of a precursor to what we would see now 20 years. Is it 20 years later? Or 18 years later or 15 years later for things like The Boys, the
Mm.
edginess, the hardness that we're expecting now. And it wasn't the only comic that was edgy or hard. It was just the movie itself was edgy and hard and fun to watch. And I was like, this is very unusual, very odd, just exactly the type of thing that I like. Mario Lopez says the only weak prequel episode one because Anakin, yeah, they kind of let him down. Chronicle says they are eminently forgetful. Guys, don't forget tomorrow at 6 p.m. join Lorraine and I on the Burnettwork, 6 p.m. Eastern for Ladies of the PGS on the Burnettwork. Thank you, Tom June Jackson, for that. Um, you know something, Cavantino Cavalry Minche? I think it would have been great if there was nudity in that film. It certainly would have raised my eyebrows, but it is a love story, and I have to give them that for at least going there with it. But I enjoyed them in Revenge of the Sith better because she was so hopeful, and that's when Anakin like completely turned, and it was I know it's terrible, but boy, it was good. It made for a good film to watch.
It's a shame because Anakin was going to be around about the same age as her originally, and then they changed it. And I just think, Cameraman Chase correct. If Anakin had been a little bit older, it would have been a little less awkward when they have their love story later on. And just in general, I just think it was a poor decision. I get why they did it because they want the kid's eye view of what's going on. But if he'd have been a teenager and sort of Attack of the Clonesy, or maybe a bit younger than that, perhaps. But you know what I mean. But that's just me.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
were
no, no,
fine.
I understand what you're saying. At least let Anakin grow up and hit puberty before
Yeah,
give
before he
him a
meets the love of
fair
his life. Yeah.
yeah, please give him a fair chance, let him meet some other chick. Gary Bando Sandwich says, hashtag Team Andor 2024. Yes. Oh, I love Andor. I love it. And I love, of course, the Andy Serkis character. I don't know if he's coming back. It doesn't
He's
matter. Is
confirmed.
he?
He's confirmed that he's coming back,
Okay.
which I'm not sure is a great decision, to be honest with you, because surely it would have been better if they'd have just left it with the whatever happened to Kino Loy. Well, we don't know. However, I was listening to Thor Skywalker, who postulated a really good theory. He said, "Well, I think he thought it was a terrible idea, but Circus has confirmed that he's back, but we don't know in what capacity. So it could be that they, knowing Gilroy as and how they pull no punches with this, it could be that the only time we see Kino Loy, is when the Empire turn up and torture Kino Loy to death for information that he does not have. This character, what's his name, what's his real name? Like I literally don't know. Where's he going? Who is it? I literally don't know." And you bring Circus back only to kill him off, because they are really good at showing how evil the Empire is in its banality. Like that's the banal of evil. That's kind of like they're just bureaucrats. They give me the information. Okay, we're going to kill you then, and they move on. So if they did that, that'd be great. If they give him some sort of story, not convinced, because what would the Empire actually do to someone like Kino Loy, who said, "I am Kino Loy and I'm leading you all on a rebellion"? Like, okay, are you, buddy? Too bad you can't swim. Into the punishment block for you. And I think that's
And
how it.
And it is very interesting that Thor says that, and of course, you mentioning it, and you and I have talked about this Kino Loy character and how he had to be the one to get everybody to go against the guards. And Andor couldn't do it. It had to be Kino Loy. He had to let them know I've been here for a while, and I'm an operator, and that held more weight than anyone else at the prison. It was very interesting to see that character, but I think it was very scary. It was almost like he was going down with the Titanic when everybody else was jumping off and he was going down with the ship. That's what it felt like to me. Um,
It was
but
interesting. Sorry.
yeah, Mario
Uh,
Lopez says Empire was his favorite. Dark Plato says Empire Strikes Back. Joe Tyson says Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One. Bonzo says it's Return of the Jedi. Yes, the Ewoks. Good for you, Bonzo. Yeah. Chronicles says Rogue One got that Star Wars feeling back. Don't agree with the take that it was only good because of Darth Vader. It had the feel and detail of the real Star Wars.
I'm with
Interesting.
you, Chronicles. Yeah, I agree.
Solo was okay, but it didn't feel like Star Wars. Yeah, it didn't feel like it, even though he was, like around in the Star Wars universe. It had a little different feel. And I think Solo, and it's okay that it was a little different. I don't think Han Solo is like everybody else. I think he's a very special character
So
and
I
person.
watched it. It was all right. It wasn't garbage. It wasn't total garbage. It was all right. Woody Harrelson was funny. The cameo at the end was yet more proof that nobody in Star Wars ever dies. And Media Clark was great in it.
He was great in it, yeah. I
Yeah,
I was terrified of Darth Maul in Solo more than any other movie, and I'm
mm,
not quite sure why. Maybe it's because he summoned the Amelia Clark character to come join him, and it felt very intimidating, and I just was terrified of him there more than I was in all the other films. Weird, right? Um, Anakin unfortunately cut his son's right hand off as his was cut off at the same age. Yeah, weird, right? Cavalryman Calvin Chiche. I thought he was trying to lure Luke from the edge. Okay,
yeah,
Darth
because
Maul.
that was his intent, and this is what we were saying before, right? It was kind of like, I'm sure during that particular fight, Vader is consumed by the dark side. He is saying, "No, I'm literally serious. Come off the ledge. We'll kill the Emperor, and we can bring order to the galaxy. We'll end the rebellion. You're on that side. I'm on this side. It's gonna be great. Don't jump. Whatever you do, you know."
You're gonna love it. Caventina Cavalryman Shay says Luke became force sensitive enough to sense Anakin still inside Darth Vader during the
Indeed.
elevator scene, and that was important for us to see that. But remember, he couldn't sense that. There was no way he was going to sense that when his father told him that I am your dad. He was in shock and repulsed and didn't know what to do. He had his arm cut off.
But he was
And
warned not to go. Like they couldn't have said it. Don't go. Literally, don't face the emperor. Don't, like, oh, I remember Alec Guinness standing there going like that for whatever reason, and Yoda's saying, "You're not ready. You're not ready. Don't do this. My friends are in danger. I have to go. Just please don't go. You're gonna fucking die." Because they, So yeah, it was foreshadowing. Like,
yeah,
as a young kid, I had no idea Luke was going to lose that fight because you don't know how stories work, and I think it was like a complete shock that he got his ass handed to him.
it was. And of course, we know that Vader could have killed him then, but
Mm,
spared his life too. So that's another element of The Empire Strikes Back that is something to think about. He
mm.
could have killed Luke there, and then there wouldn't even be an issue. He could go on with his life, but he's not going to kill his son.
No, he didn't,
Um,
and you're sowing the seeds of it right there because he literally says to the Emperor earlier on, "He will join us or die." Well, he didn't join them, and he didn't die. And you could have caught him using that. You literally were just throwing massive tons of steel at him and all that to batter him. If he jumped off, you could have literally gone like that and brought him back. And then Luke says, like, I'm too weak to resist him. I won't be able to resist. Like he could have done that, and he didn't. He chose not. He chose not to, and that's the beginning of his ascension. I imagine to back to the light side.
and Stubble, with the words of wisdom here, says the Jedi are so weary of hate, they suppress all forms of passion. Love and hate are two sides of the coin of passion. You can't passionately hate someone if you haven't loved it first, Stubble. I like the way you're talking, Stubble. Um, and guys, do check out on Amazon Russ's books, the Gladiatrix series. Please do check them out. They're fantastic.
Thank you.
Julian, hi, Julian, says no matter what version of Empire Strikes Back you watch, it seems to me that the conversation between Vader and the Emperor is when the first break occurs. Palpatine outright lied to him, and he knows. Yes.
Mm.
And you know something? In the movies, this is the first time, let's say, in the movies that we see the real reality of Darth Vader, in the sense that Darth Vader is constantly being thrown on these incredibly dangerous missions by Palpatine, where Vader has to constantly get out of scrapes, and anybody else would have died. But because Darth Vader has such talent in the Force, that he manages to save his life. But time and time again, Palpatine sends him on these missions that would kill anyone else. But because it's Anakin, he can survive it. So the relationship between the two of them is not exactly as smooth as it appears. It really is a rocky road. I don't know how Darth Vader got through it all,
Well, this is
honestly.
kind of the point, isn't it? Like, isn't the rule of two? Like, eventually, Anakin was supposed to turn around and overthrow uh, Sheev. That's kind of the point of the rule of two. Like, eventually, you will be betrayed, and the stronger one must take over. But it almost seems like because the Emperor's in the position of power, and also Anakin is a complete failure and disappointment to him. Like, he wanted, 80s hair metal
That's
Anakin
right.
with
That's
his good look, not this half man, half machine who's depleted by what is it? How many percent of his, like when he was
probably
Anakin,
20%, 20 to
he's
25%.
like 20% of what he was, or so
I
you've
mean,
obviously,
less, 20% less. So he's maybe like at 60, 70%
I
of
would
his.
say it would be more because like he's only got that much of him left, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then and one arm, so he's
yes.
like maybe he's lost 2/3 of his power. Let us whichever
Okay.
way I remember reading about this, but essentially he's powerful but useless to Sheev in the way that if you're sexy Sheev, you've invested all this force power, all this time, immaculately conceiving this perfect vessel that you are going to take under your wing and rule the galaxy through, knowing eventually that he will betray you and kill you, but ultimately the Sith will triumph, and now you've got a third of a bloke in a suit. So I imagine, as I'm riffing on this, there's almost a disdain for Vader now. As far well, if he dies, so what? We'll send him off on that mission because I need a new apprentice, which he got with this Cal Kestis, right? Is that correct, or is that Vader's apprentice? I don't know. But anyway, we
Mm,
digress.
I don't no, not with Cal, but um I don't think so anyway. Cavantino Cavalry Chase says, Will Din Grogu be in full Mandalorian armor? Yeah, maybe. He's gonna get the armor. He's already got the rondelle, which I kind of liked seeing Grogu's face when he got the rondelle. He's so sweet. I love him so much. A Star Wars movie done with love and skill would bring people back instantly and definitely make a billion. Yeah, it would. You're right. It would. Hey, James T. Keegan, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'll believe it when it's filmed. A lot of people are saying that. Rogue Thinker, hi. Greetings all. Yeah. Um, yeah. James Tegan says, I was for seeing Phantom Menace in the cinema and it was amazing. Love the pod race. See, he liked it.
Yeah,
See,
because he was little. It was made for him, and I was always thinking it should have been made for us, and they should have continued down that road. That was kind of my point. Nice one,
now
James.
Bonzo loved it. Bonzo says he was 20 and he loved it from what he remembers. Okay, good for you, Bonzo. I'm glad you liked it. I'm so glad. Guys, remember, we've got on May 20th, a week after Robert's birthday, the Burnettwork is going to be doing, meaning me, I'm going to be doing a watch party for Tango Shalom. It's going to be a live watch party at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Burnettwork. So please do check it out. Julian says Revenge of the Sith fails for me because there's a huge lack of tension. Okay, fair enough. Filoni showed in Clone Wars Season 7 that you could still have tension despite knowing which characters survive. Agreed. Hello, Norwegian Kryptonian. Hi, how are you? Thalia also says she liked the prequels but didn't like Anakin. Retro Nurgle says, sadly, any criticism is reason to be hate and thus ignored. It's hard to see Star Wars going down this path.
It
Yes,
is
it
hard.
is. And that's what you were talking about, Russ, about the shock of seeing what's happening. Rogue Thinker says the Watchmen comic was great. The movie was great, except the end. But the TV series was an insult. Yeah, I didn't watch the TV series of the Watchmen. Yeah, I don't think I can do that. It's 14 years. Thank you, Tom. Empire Strikes Back is Retro Nerd Girl's
I think
favorite.
it's everyone's fave, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, if you're an OG, you kind of think, yeah, Empire. That's the best one.
And Bonzo Kilburn says, didn't Circus drown? We didn't see him go in the water, Bonzo. We don't know what happened to him. On program. On program. Yes. Yeah, and it's something to think about. I know that we were talking about, oh guys, just so you know, after the member call today, there is a Let's Get Physical Media on the Burnettwork. So yeah, Kino Loy. Kino Loy and or season 2 has me worried that the Empire will use him to infiltrate the rebellion.
I'd love that.
Wow, Julian.
That's great, Julian. I'd love that.
So Andy's gonna play another bad guy. You know what? I can't wait. I have a feeling I might see Andy Serkis again one of these days, Russ. And I should have followed your advice, Russ, from the get-go. However, Russ, I have a feeling that there may be another encounter with Andy Serkis in the future at one of his upcoming films. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But
We can
yeah,
only hope. We can only hope for your sake.
absolutely. I totally fell in love with Kino Loy. And to be honest with you, I am kind of liking seeing Andy Serkis not playing the not stop motion, the motion capture characters. I think he's great. I really liked him in Batman. It wasn't a huge role, but you needed somebody passionate enough. You needed that Kino Loy character who wasn't just going to be easily convinced. Even with Andor, who's the most charismatic man in the world, who could charm the panties off of any woman. Even he couldn't charm Kino Loy right away.
Well, here's
He
the thing. Sorry, carry on.
no, go ahead. That's awesome.
I was listening to something read something about Tony Gilroy about Andor, and he was saying how it's like a completely secular show apart from the bit in the prison, which is very, very religious. And that sort of makes you think, well, how is it religious? And Gilroy was saying that it's about a man completely losing his faith and who's got nothing left to lose. And this is what someone who's got nothing left to lose will do. And the religion and the faith for Kino Loy is that box. Every day he looks at that box and it ticks down. 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down. And one day, as long as he is a good to the faith, turns up on time, does what he's supposed to do, he will get out and he will be reborn as a free man. And then he realizes that it's all a lie and nothing he believed works. The whole system is rigged against him. His religion is a lie. It's a fake. This is what Gilroy's saying. It's not me reading it. And then that's what breaks him. And that thing, that now you've got a man who has no hope, no belief, no nothing.
True. I just love Kino Loy. And I also loved Andy in a number of other things as well. Mara says The Watchmen is his favorite superhero movie of all time. Yes, I second that, Mario. And he says, I hated the Watchmen TV show. It was an insult to the movie and the comics. Honestly, I think the Watchmen movie was one of the most ambitious movies ever
Have you
made.
watched the supercut with all the extra scenes and the animated thing put into it and all the rest of it? I watched that
Yes,
with Sam and she absolutely loved it. She said it was
it's
one of the best superhero films she's seen as well.
it's just so remarkable. And I have favorite characters in it, but I have to give credit to Warshak
Mm.
because I didn't understand elementally this character, how he really seems to get out of stuff. He's like the anti-Captain America, if you will. He'll be in a room and there could be 20 thugs in there, and he's gonna be the last man standing. Like, it's remarkable, how you can create this character and tie in psychology, obviously with the Rorschach test,
Mm.
on his face was absolutely just amazing. And Norwegian Kryptonian, Henry Cavill would knock anything out of the park. Norwegian Kryptonian. So I was just gonna say that. Also, uh, Retro Nurgle says, I never thought it was a great idea for Anakin to be featured as a child through the whole movie. A flashback would have been better. Yeah. Yeah. Retro
It's a
Nurgle.
great idea, Retro.
Um, Chronicle says Russ has made me want to rewatch Andor. I agree. Yes, good.
Maybe you
Chronicle.
know what? Maybe I'll watch it again. Although I'm kind of tempted to watch Picard season 3 or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but I used to love those old movies. And I was listening to, I think it was the Critical Drinker, one of their streams. And one of the things that someone just said it as a throwaway comment, and they said it's much more like it's done like the movies were done. It's got all the nods and the winks and the things that you expect from a Star Trek movie, except it's like a 10-hour movie of old people doing Star Trek. And I thought, in the same way with Chronicles, oh, you kind of sold me on that. Maybe I will check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I did a live watch party for it, as you guys know, on the Burnettwork, as well as review shows with Julian Mushkin, who's here. Hi, Julian, again. And it was maybe the best season of Star Trek I've ever seen in my, I don't know how many years of watching Star Trek episodes. It was very different from anything I've seen. It did feel like a continuous film. They were not separate episodes. They were all tied into each other. So you
And
need to
are
watch the first one before you watch episode 10. Yes.
do you have? I've heard conflicting things on this. Have to have seen Picard season 1 and 2 to watch season 3, or have
No.
they gone? Oh no, that didn't really happen. It's kind of a yeah, la, la, la.
No, no, they
Forget
don't
that.
have that. That's not true. You just don't need it in order to watch season 3.
Cool. Then I
It's
may well
not
check it out.
needed. You do need to be a Star Trek fan, though, to understand Star Trek, especially the Next Generation. I'm gonna say it. It's helpful if you've watched the Next Generation before watching season 3 of Picard. So that's what I was gonna say. It's more of a conclusion to the Next Generation,
Mhm.
in general. So it's and also it does feature a lot about Picard more than anything else has featured Picard in the past. And Julian says it's a wonderful season of Trek. Yeah, it's my absolute favorite. Julian and I watch it together. Has been so amazing. Hey, Keely Chow, how are
Oh,
you?
there she is. We were just killing time till you got here, Keely. Don't worry, it's all good.
That's right. We can start now. It's so good to see you, Keely Chow. Roll Tide to you. And also, yeah, well, that's true, Bonzo. Yeah, he's in an android body.
I know
Um,
that. Yeah, that kind of
Everybody
got.
seems to know this.
Yeah.
Bonzo. I don't know why, but it is very interesting. And also, Chronicles says, I wasn't huge on Next Gen. I'm one of those weirdos who liked the later seasons of Voyager. I liked Voyager as well. I watched every episode of Voyager, and I watched E16, and I also watched Enterprise, which unfortunately ended abruptly, didn't it? Chronicles. We didn't really get a chance to see the end of that. But yeah, going into talking about Snyder stuff. According to Mario says he's been watching the first 2 days of the Snyder Con. I haven't
As
had a chance
have
to watch
I.
it. Oh, you've been watching it, Russ?
Dude, come on. What? Can you imagine if I turned up on his show and go, yeah, I haven't really managed to catch any of that. No, I've been religious about this. Although I will admit to fast forwarding through the sort of director's commentary because he had like the film junkie, Dave the film junkie, on stage with him, and they're watching Man of Steel and all that. And actually, the transfer it's quite hard to hear what they're saying. So I hope they sort of release this in the next Steel book,
Mine
extortionately.
too, Stubble. DS9 is my favorite. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Whatever they release. So SnyderCon,
Yes.
what do we think? Well, SnyderCon has delivered in terms of what it says it was going to deliver, in that it is a celebration of these wonderful movies, and it is a chance to have intimate, really close contact with these uh,
Mm.
filmmakers and all the rest of it, and it's there to celebrate those movies. It's also been a bit of a damp squib. There's so much hype around this event, and I've said this before of Zach, and I, yeah, as if I know him. I've said it before of him, and I'll say it again here. He also has a responsibility to these people that love him and his work so much. Okay, no one is going there for the retrospective and the watch party of Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. No, 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 they're not. And anybody that claims that they are is full of poo poo. They're not. We all want to know what's happening, because in the run up to this, there's rumors that Henry Cavill is going to be there and he's making some sort of huge announcement. There's rumors Gal Gadot's going to be there. There's rumors that Ben Affleck's going to be there. I would say that that's the least likely one to happen.
They said surprise guests. They said surprise
They
guests.
did have a surprise guest. They had the actress that played Carol Ferris there, the one that goes, Superman's really hot, at the end of Man of Steel, and how that she got picked for the part because Zack Snyder saw her on a hummus commercial. And this is the sort of stuff that's coming out of it. So today is the final day. Today is not at the school that he went to. It's at a theater, Universal Theater. And if it is what it says on the tin, and it is just a celebration and that's it, I think that they need to be quite clear with what's going on and be categoric about it, because it's almost like the SnyderCon did what the Disney Investor School didn't do. These questions are screened. They have to be, because nobody is asking the questions that we want answered. What's happening, Zach? Has there been a conversation? Is it even on the cards? Should we just give this up? Well, we want to know. I want to know. It's almost like a sort of girlfriend that you're sort of still in love with, and you kind of want to move on to a new one, but you still have and there's that chance that she might come back. It really does sort of feel like that. But there's been a few interesting lines come out of it. Someone said in the audience question, what film would you make if you had if you had no constraints? So you had all the money, Disney money, you had money thrown at you, because they were talking about how whatever the budget of a movie is, it's never enough money. I say, for example, if you've got $250 million to spend on a movie, then you're making that kind of huge movie. You're going to want more and more and more money to do bigger and bigger things. And she said, this was Deborah Snyder talking. And she said, it's just the same when you're making a sort of small indie and you've got $2 million to make it. You kind of want $4 million to do your thing. Anyway, which then led to the question, what would you do if you had and he's going, oh god, that's a really hard question to answer, and someone goes, make Justice League 2 and 3 from the audience, and he goes, yes, that's exactly what I would do. In fact, that's the answer right there. Okay, but actually it's just some rando shouting out, everyone's sort of, clapping. And Deborah Snyder sort of said, yeah, but what we'd really like to do is we want to make some smaller movies and not studio movies. We kind of want to do. So she sort of shut him down like straight away as soon as he started talking about that. The other thing that happened was somebody asked him about Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock is a sequel, and this is the very last question they asked on the BVS day, which was yesterday. The last question was asked was, have you read Doomsday Clock, and would you, if you had your way, would you made a sequel to Justice League, would you consider doing that? And Zack Snyder says, isn't that the one that Jeff Johns wrote? And the person said, yeah, and he said, yeah, not going to happen, and put his microphone down and walked off. Not because he was cross, but because like everybody knows what Jeff Johns did to Justice League, and everybody knows how much Zack Snyder hates that. So it wasn't like Zack Snyder being a tool, but it was like a brilliant way to end the day. And the other thing, yeah, that was literally what I was just about to say, Mario. They said to him, well, what? Okay, so what? How did Joker kill Robin? And he said, I can't spoil that. And of course, that's got Snyder nerds going, well, hang on a minute. It's only a spoiler if it's going to spoil a story, right? If there's a story to be told and you're going to spoil the ending of it, then there must be a story to be told, right? Because if there's no story that's going to be told, then how are you going to spoil it? Just say, well, yeah, in my world, because he revealed, which I thought was brilliant. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. People are getting really annoyed about it, but like this is, don't forget, this is the Snyderverse. So the capsule in Superman, Man of Steel. Everyone thought it was Kara's capsule. He's like, no, that was like thousands of years ago. That guy was probably like a Greek god. This is that that Kryptonian was the Greek. That was Zeus, and that's how we got these gods, because they were these powerful. He was like powerful, and they started, breeding with humans, and the power gets sort of diluted. But basically, the first god was a Kryptonian, and that's where the Amazons come from. I thought it's not lore, it's not comic lore. I get it, I understand that, but that was a brilliant way of making that. I loved that idea. Anyway, so the you can't spoil a story if there's no story. So what are you going to spoil? So that's well spotted there. Oh God, sorry,
It's okay.
fading.
It's okay.
I've lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so that was a good thing to bring up. Whoever brought it up in the chat, I forgot who brought it up in the chat. Mario
Mario,
brought it
yeah,
up in the
Mario
chat. Yeah,
Lopez.
forgive me. Um, but that's been about it, right? There's been nothing to write home about this at all. Like the special guests, like he had the production designer. The production designer's like a genius. Like he was saying, like I got to design the S, and then I thought, well, Krypton doesn't have any straight lines, and that's kind of, and all of that stuff's interesting if you're a film nerd. But as I said, RM, nobody is there to hear this stuff. We want to know what the hell is going on. So if they don't pull it out of the bag today with some sort of announcement or some sort of good thing, then as I said before with Zack Snyder, he needs to come out and say, look, I know why you're all here. I haven't had any meetings. There is no conversation that's happened. If it, of course I want to continue it. And if they gave me more money than God, I would do it tomorrow. I would, but there hasn't been anything. And yes, keep the flag flying. But for now, there's nothing on the horizon. It's James Gunn's universe all the way. And it's, I want you to support that, whatever. Give us a fucking answer, because this is getting, people are going to feel, I think, you might get a little bit of negativity, but people are going to feel like they've been fished in here. Why are we doing this event? What's this event about? Why is it called Full Circle? Why did you release a picture of the Superman statue reconfigured, rebuilt? you know, from the smashed up piece it was. Now you've rebuilt it and you've told everybody there is a secret message in here. There is a secret message in the t-shirt. There is stuff coming, and then you get nothing. They have to do something, and it has to be today. Have they retro? I know they've done the animated one. Other than that, I couldn't tell you. So if you could fill me in, that would be good.
Yeah, that's very interesting that I thought there would have been some incredible cameos, um major announcements by now. I'm surprised.
Mm. It's good what Tom put up there actually, because that was the whole. If you remember when the Snyder Cut was coming out, when the Snyder Cut was going to, and they had that sort of like statue thing that they kept zooming in on, and it all looked like ancient Greece and stuff like that. So that absolutely plays into that. And what tell you what else was interesting though, he didn't have a plan for Harry Lennox to be Martian Manhunter. He said that idea came to him, and he said this is entirely down to Harry Lennox. Like, and that's what just gave me the idea on the spot. When they, you know, it's not an S, it means hope, and they're in that scene, and then Superman just gets fed up with it. He's like, I'm fed up with this, and he just breaks his handcuffs and he walks up to the window. Everybody else shits it and backs off, apart from Harry Lennox, who just sort of stands there. And Snyder's thinking, why would he have the balls to stand there when this alien monster could literally just reach through the grass? And yeah, I've got an idea. And that's kind of where that. So that was like a really interesting uh, tidbit to have there. And also, he spoke a lot about um, why his Superman was the way he was. He's, you know, the trouble that the problem that you've always got with Superman is that he can do anything. So you have to make his issues personal, like he can't get the girl, or he can't things that his mighty powers can. And he's just, I just wanted to explore the fact that like he feels out of place. Like this is not his world. He knows that he's different. He's having trouble fitting in, and that's the. He was unapologetic about it as well. He was like completely unapologetic. This is what I wanted to do, and that's what we did. So, so as I say, today has to be the day. And I imagine there will be a little bit of backlash for Mr. Snyder if he doesn't give us. You got to give us something, man. You got to give us something, especially after all the teasing and the statues and the T-shirts and the special guests and the Henry Cavill and the this and the that. You can't serve up as brilliant as she was, the actress that played Carol Ferris. No one was breaking down the doors to see that lady, as wonderful as she was, and she was brilliant on stage, by the way, and she was so funny, and she told all these stories, and it was great. But yeah, there you go. Thanks, Mario.
Yeah, Mary says I agree with Russ. Zach should say something to be more clear. Retro Nurgle said she's been loving the Q&A from SnyderCon. It's very fascinating. Very
It
interesting.
is. It is. It's fascinating, and it's brilliant stuff about the process of making the film, and you get to hear why he made all these decisions in it. But retro, no one's there for that. I refuse to believe that people were booking up hotel rooms from London, flying across to Los Angeles to have the burning question answers as to how Carol Ferris got hired for Man of Steel. It's interesting. It's an interesting tidbit, and I get all of that. But no one's there for that. That's my belief, and I could be completely wrong. And everyone go, no, Russ, we all went there to meet Carol Ferris, and it's the greatest thing ever. But not for me. Not with the sell Snyderverse to Netflix. Not with the statue rebuilt. Not with the t-shirts. Not with the teasing that he's been doing. Not with the sudden media rush that Snyder did. You know, appearing on the Pizza Film podcast, appearing on the Film Junkie, doing the other live stream with the Snyder girls, those two girls that love him so much. Yeah, he's basically was doing what he did in the run up to the Snyder Cut here. And you're going to give us nothing? I can't believe it. I'll be disappointed. I will be disappointed.
You know, I think that they should have had Ray Fisher come on.
Yeah,
I,
well, he's in Rebel Moon, right?
I think they should have had him come on, and they just kind of did his 1/6 scale figure, the cyborg figure. It's like a $300 figure, like it's
Mm,
pricey. But I think they should have had him come on because I always felt like he was kind of the future of it all. Just me personally, my personal feelings because of the potential of the character.
mm.
But and also his touching story. Um, but yeah, I think it would have been interesting if they had Ray come on in. and say some words or show up. I think people would have been very surprised to have seen him there. Things are so different nowadays. For example, at cons in general, I don't know how many of let's say the people from those films show up anymore for signings and things. So, I mean, it could have been like a legitimate con, and then everybody from the movies could have showed up. I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking it might have been like when you go to a con and then you would expect to see people who starred in the film. And not just one person, like a group of people
Mm.
who were there. Um, yeah, Darth Plato. It would have been nice to have just seen that, see everybody together again, so to speak, under one roof would have been astounding. They are that popular that people would have maybe had heart attacks if they had showed up. I mean, that would have been astounding, but things are so odd. Um, okay. Mario says ZL should have said something today because Sunday Brunch Live was also today. Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
I know, right? Like the timing sucks. That come on, man. You should have done this. Just to say, Bonzo raises a point. Just above when he says Clark has been on Earth. And the time him being out of place is not very believable. For 80 years, he's been very much in place as a hero. Well, you see, that last sentence there doesn't count. 80 years of Superman doesn't count. This is the story of this Superman. And this Superman is conflicted because his dad is saying, "Look, you can't fucking show anybody about this. You're going to get cut up. You'll be put on a slab. You just." He's like, "But I've got all these. I can do all this stuff, And it's like kind of weird. And the world's too big, Mum. And why am I like how I am? What am I? What am I?" And you get that scene in the church where he goes to the priest, and the priest says, sometimes you've got to take a leap of faith, man, and all that stuff. So why I say the last sentence doesn't count, because well, it doesn't in this universe. Superman wouldn't do this. Superman hasn't done that. Well, this Superman did do that, and this Superman did, because that was this person who wrote the story, plus the Nolan, Snyder, Goya, who wrote that story, saying we've got to do something else. We can't go back to Christopher Reeves. They tried that in 2006, and nobody liked it. And we can all look back on it and say how wonderful it was. And it was a lovely sequel to Superman 3, and it gave the Christopher Reeves character a send off. And I agree with all that. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I loved how they brought back all the new stuff. But this was different. This wasn't with John Williams. This was without the underpants. This was a whole different thing. And I loved it. But I don't think it's fair to say, well, for 80 years it's been like, yes, it has been. I agree. But the cinema general audience told you in 2006, we don't want this. We want something new. And you got something new, and it made fortunes, made a lot of money, but it didn't make Avengers money, as we've said a million times. So
Now,
that's my point.
yeah, these are all good points. Yeah, and I think if you had asked me, you know, weeks ago if I wanted to see Ray Fisher, I probably would have said no, but now like I don't know, if seeing that figure and I remembered how much I enjoyed his character in the story, I really want to see the actor. I think it's really interesting that it's that compelling, even at this stage. But the other thing I was going to say, the last thing I was going to say,
Mm.
is that of course at CinemaCon there were a lot of movies that were previewed, um, and of course people are talking about the Flash and how Robert did see it and he had a stream and he talked about it, how different it was to him. Um, you know, I guess this film is just so incredibly different and unexpected that, people find it refreshing. I don't know. But the way he described it was that it was just something so different from what he was expecting. And, I'm just so curious as to what it's going to be like. Are you going to go see The Flash, Russ, when it
Yeah,
comes
I,
out?
I will. I'll go and I 100% will go and see it in the cinema. That that is a film that I'm not going to miss. I have heard um, from different people that it's not a definitive ending. Like you could restore the Snyderverse from it, or you could completely can the Snyderverse and go in a completely different direction. I don't know whether that's true or not. I really don't know. I've heard that it's a brilliant, brilliant film. I've heard that Ezra Miller absolutely smashes it. I heard Ben Affleck smashes it. I've heard that Michael Keaton smashes it. That Sasha Kaye smashes it. That everything revolves around Ezra Miller, and he's fucking brilliant. Because lest we forget, apart from the fact that he's had his difficulties, kid's a good actor. He's a really, really good actor. Right? He was in that really acclaimed drama which has escaped me. Come on, you know it. What was it called? I can't remember. Before he was a superhero. Anyway, someone will know. Anyway, but he's a brilliant actor, and he completely carries the movie. And in fact, by all accounts, it's a brilliant movie. So let's hope so. Personally, I hope there's a massive demand for the Snyderverse comes out of it, and James Gunn's vision of crapness is crushed, and we get what we want. But that's just me being petty.
No, yeah, this is just something to think about. I mean, it's I think that we all saw the trailer, and I don't know about you, but I was
We
stunned.
have to talk about Kevin. Thank you,
Yes,
Bonzo. That's the
thank you,
one.
Bonzo. I think I was stunned by how cool the trailer looked,
Hmm.
and I wasn't expecting to be, won over by the trailer, but I was. So I think that, the idea of not releasing the film was something that they were like, "Well, this film is really good. We can't be putting ourselves in a position where we don't release it." But,
And thank you, Bifer, as well. Sorry, Aram.
yes, thank you, Bifer.
But
Um,
it's kind of indicative of where Warner Brothers are at, right? Now imagine that this film makes over 1 billion with that cast, and
wow.
all the reviews come out, and they're all saying, "Oh, fucking Ben Affleck, he was so good. Oh, we can't. Oh, he was so great. We want him, and we want Ezra back, and we want." What do you do? What do you do?
You mean
You've
what will James Gunn do?
Yeah. What do Warner Brothers do? Because in the Snyder Con, again, Snyder went out of his way to name check Luca, uh, DeLuca and Abdi. Right? He went out of his way, and as soon as he said that, and the crowd went wild. He said, "Yeah, Warner Brothers, Pam Abdi, Jason DeLuca." Everyone's going, "Yes," because they know that they're very pro Snyderverse, right? And
Yeah,
they've mentioned the Snyderverse multiple times. Like his old teacher was there, sort of hosting it, and he's going, "Well, you're a guy who's got like a verse named out for you. How cool is that?" So they know that this is on people's minds.
yeah.
Uh, I liked it, Bonzo. I really enjoyed it for what it was. Sorry, Bonzo says here, if you're listening to this, Superman Returns was bad. I'm not against the changes, but these changes didn't work for me. Eh, I liked it because it was what we should have had, kind of ish, almost. There were some bad decisions made. Yeah, we can sort of agree with that. But on the whole, Ralph was charming. The music was great. Spacey, are we allowed to say his name? I guess we're too late. I've already said it. He was really good in it. Whatever you may
Mhm,
think of him personally, as a
mhm.
performer and an actor, before all this shit came to light, he was good in it. I enjoyed it, and I liked Parker Posey doing Valerie Perrine and all that. It
Yes.
was good fun. It was good fun, and I enjoyed it, and I would have seen more of it. I would have gone back, and we got it eventually in Supergirl, didn't we? Crisis on Infinite Earths, but yeah, so I liked it.
And I think we keep going back to it a little bit like Lois and is it what's the Superman series that's
Lois
out?
and Superman.
I think that's very much like Superman Returns, you know?
Yes,
So, I think that that theme of Superman is always gonna be popular, people kinda do wanna see that, and
but
then,
could
of
they have
course
got anybody that looks more like Margot Kiddo? I mean,
yeah,
literally,
yeah,
in my head canon, those two are, Christopher Reeves and Margot Kidder in some alternate future where they did get together, did get married, and they went back to live on the farm, which is the same farm that they always lived on. It just seems like that would be the next stage for Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder to sort of get to. You
yeah.
know, that's kind of what I think anyway.
and they have these two kids. I haven't watched the whole series, but I think initially one of them has powers that the other one isn't sure whether he has powers. And there's the I think it's the first episode or the second episode where the kids don't believe that the father is Superman.
Mm,
And it's wonderful. It's so good when he has to kind of like, take off his glasses, which he doesn't really need.
mm.
And he's looking at the woman who looks like Margot Kidder, and she's looking at him, and the boys are kind of like, "Yeah, dad, you're a punk," or whatever they're
Yeah, they were
whatever
annoyed
they're
with him
called.
for lying, and he's like, "Well, you know what? I didn't know what else to do." So yeah, going back to what Snyder said, full circle, dare I say, you have to give Superman problems that being strong and fast with X-ray vision can't solve, and being a good dad and knowing the right thing to do with your kids is not a superpower that anybody possesses. Like knowing what to do off the bat. So that's why the strength of this show, and of course the wonderful performances and the wonderful scripts and everything else. It's great, and I wasn't excited for it. I'm not going to lie. It's like, CW. I can imagine what this is going to be like.
Oh,
But you
so
know what? It's not a CW show in any way, shape, or form. It's a really, really good show.
and I also want to say that in regards to the Titans, which is out there, I admit the Titans is a bit out there, and it's supposed to be out there. Even Superboy, like there's the idea that he gets in contact with Lex Luthor in the series.
Don't do
It,
any
it
spoilers. I ain't watched it yet, but
I'm not going to say anything else, but he is supposed to be the child, or
he's a
let's say
clone. He's a clone.
a
Yeah.
combination of Lex and Superman. And he's he's wonderful to watch
Mm.
because he does have a lot of domestic situations that he has to deal with. In fact, a good portion of it is domestic situations. And who doesn't like to enjoy to see somebody like him? And as I said before, they were smart enough to make him look like Superman, of course,
Yes.
and not like Lex Luthor. But even so, it's intriguing how this young man plays this character. And of course, I know they're going to have a final season, but
Is it
it's
out? Is it out yet? Has it dropped yet? The last
final
because
season.
the half. Well, it's the final half, isn't it? Because they did half a season, and I'll have to check.
Yeah, I have to check too. I don't remember, but I think it was also very similar in a sense, even though it was out there. There's like a season or at least a part where he has his first sexual encounter. I'm
Yeah.
like, it doesn't get any more domestic than that. It doesn't get any more domestic than, oh, this is my first time. I've never had sex with anyone before. Gee, did you ever think you'd ever be seeing something like that in reference to Superman in any capacity? Like, this is really good stuff.
Mm.
Really funny. And I think that they, just by even going there in a series like that where they can go there and they don't have to like worry about someone saying, well, this is not appropriate. No, no, on this series, it's just go crazy, have fun with it. Let's explore and have fun with it. And I think sometimes it's good to see something like that in a series, especially in live action, which is something that I wouldn't have expected. But
I just think Titans is like the honey badger of the DC universe, isn't it? Like, Titans doesn't give a fuck. Look at Titans. Titans just going over there doing its shit. Titans doesn't care. Titans is gonna fucking do anything it wants. Look at Titans now. Look at Titans. Oh, now look, they've made Superman bald. It's they just don't give a fuck, do they?
it's true. And it's okay. And it's okay to have something like that, to have that space to vent and try out new things. And yeah, it really is out there. But yeah. So that's Russ, did you have anything else that you wanted to comment on before we wrap up the show today?
No, I wanted to ask, did you watch any more Strike Back?
I have not had a chance to watch any more Strike Back. No. I'm
Shame on you.
sorry.
Shame on you. What can I
Well, it's
say?
not as much fun watching it by myself as watching it with somebody else.
That is true. That is true. I did have a blast watching it. And I did love hearing that theme tune again. Remember, you were laughing at me because I was sitting. Maybe I'd smoked something, and I was sitting on the couch and I'm going, just when the theme tune came on, you all sat there laughing at me. she said, she said, Rush, you look so happy. I thought, I am
You
happy. I
did.
love Strike Back. I love it. Anyway, no, there's nothing further from me. I just actually wanted to say thank you to everybody in the chat, and Bonzo especially. Yeah, I really appreciate you putting out your thoughts on returns and stuff like that, and I'm happy that I was able to sort of respond to it, and I wasn't being mean or anything like that. I just wanted to say I just that was my case. You know, but it's always great engaging with you guys. And I'm, you know, in some ways I wish that our had like thousands and thousands of people and we couldn't do this, but in some ways it's really nice to sort of just like see your questions coming up and be able to respond to you and have a chat basically. Yeah, this ain't no place for no hero, right? It's so good.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a watch party. Let's see what happens, guys, in the future. I can't see a reason why we couldn't consider a watch party for Strike Back. Um, and Stubble says, Russ, would you say that Superman's villains are defined by their powers, while Batman's villains are defined by their psyche?
That is a really deep question, Stubble. Superman's villains defined by no. Well, here's the thing: you could argue the toss either way, couldn't you? Because Superman's numero uno villain is Lex Luthor, who has absolutely no powers at all. So I think Lex sort of plays into what we were talking about before. We have to give Superman problems that he can't punch. And Lex, since the 80s, not in the 70s when he was wearing the green and purple suit and had a war suit and all of that, you know, the businessman Lex, when they sort of came out with that idea, that really sort of played into that, like who's someone who was not even evil, someone who was really popular, evil in the terms of being a billionaire industrialist. And it almost Superman's presence in Metropolis topples Lex from being at the top of the tower, and almost being this icon of hope and goodness turns the most powerful man in the world evil, which I quite like. Are they defined by their powers? In some ways, yeah. You have to have a dark side. You have to have a Mongol. You have to have a General Zod, because as much as it's good to pit Superman against moral quandaries, we also want to see him punch stuff and fight and be put at risk, physical risk, and all the rest of it. Are Batman's villains defined by their psyche? Maybe, but then there's that thing, isn't? You know, I always love that sort of nonsense theory that actually sort of made quite a bit of sense, that actually Batman doesn't exist and Bruce Wayne is just some sort of nutter that's got like multiple personalities, like living out his life in this cell in Arkham Asylum, and all these parts of him are just um think, you know, all of his villains do represent him in a certain way, don't they? If things had gone differently, even Clayface to a certain extent is like the mask that he's puts on in front of people. And who's the mask? Is it Batman? I don't know, man. That is a very very deep question, and I think we're kind of running out of time. Stubble. I wish we'd have had it earlier on. Maybe one to do a separate stream about. You know, maybe you can come on and we can talk about Superman with Norwegian Kryptonian until the cows come home, because I'd love that.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Of course, thank you to Tom. We are all good people, for everything. Russ, where can people find you?
On the couch after this. You can always contact me at my website, yeah, contact at russellwhitfield.com, or via Tom or our, they'll be able to get hold of me. And I think they're probably more accessible than I am. But more importantly, where can people find you, RM?
Guys, you can always find me here on Positive Fandom, um, my YouTube channel. Uh, I'll always be here on Sundays for Sunday brunch. Guys, I stream gaming live every single day. Today, I already streamed an episode of Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So make sure you guys check that out. But every day, I do a live stream and some other watch parties and things coming up. You could also find me on the Burnettwork, where I do my Ladies of the PGS show on Monday nights at 6 p.m. with Lorena. In about a week, I'm going to be premiering my new show. It's not really my show, but it's a show I do with Kat. It's her show called Kat's Corner, where Kat goes over her extensive collection of physical media and does reviews. It is fantastic show. It's called Kat's Corner, and guys, you can see the preview of it. It's going to be premiering about a week from Monday, right after Ladies of the PGS. And of course, you can find me on Midnight Musings with Robert. We're also going to be doing another show, but you can also find me on PGS Treks and PGS Moving Image, along with a bunch of other shows coming up. Stubble and I are going to be doing our review in the fall, according to Stubble. Thank you, Stubble, for reminding me of the Wheel of Time season 1, and we're going to be reviewing the Wheel of Time on the Burnettwork. season 2, guys. So please do check that out when it comes up. And of course, you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network for Say What or Uncivilized Scoundrels, as well as Lorraine's channel on our show, Toxic Male Appreciation, on Thursdays, as well as other watch parties. I have another watch party scheduled for May 20th, guys. That's going to be Tango Shalom. That's right, guys. We're going to be doing a live watch party for Tango Shalom on the Burnettwork coming up in May. And there's going to be a few other ones as well. Just so glad that you all are here. Thank you for stopping by, everybody. Really appreciate all of your input. Um, and of course, Russ, thank you as always for being here.
Only
Always
a pleasure.
enjoy. Always enjoy doing the show with you guys. Just thank you so much. Um, thank you, everybody, for all the kind words. And I appreciate all of you. And, always remember, guys, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always do remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great one.